or might just be hanging out and potentially watching a movie. That could be possibly a thing. Who knows? Just in case. So just let me know what you want to see. Let me know. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. And now, let me go ahead and let's dive into the dark depths of Junji Ito. So, Junji Ito, before we get like nitty gritty into his history and his extensive bibliography of manga, I wanted to show off some of the collections. My collection is still growing. I do not have all. I have a lot of the PDFs that I purchased online, but I do not have all of his published material, and I want it in hardback because I'm a very big fan of physical media. I purchased these from my local comic book store, which is right down the road, Sanctum Tattoos and Comics. They do deliveries during this whole, and they're about to do curbside delivery again for stay-at-home orders and everything in the quarantine. So please do contact your local comic book store. See if they do curbside delivery. See if they do delivery as well. And see if you can get your hands on these materials. Because the PDFs are awesome. And looking at the PDFs is awesome. But nothing compares to actually reading the manga while it's in your hands. This one that I'm holding right here is Dissolving Classroom. It's shorter. It's got about 4 stories, I think, in it. Let's see. No, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Turtle Man 357, thank you for the host. Appreciate you. But it's got, not including the afterword, it's got 7 stories in it, and they're all interconnected about these two, this brother and sister duo. As you can tell, it's goopy. I do need to put a word of warning, because there is going to be a point in the stream where I'm going to be going over some of his panels and his work and everything. I'm going to be showing it off and talking about his detail and how he story tells through certain things. And I want to put a content warning, trigger warning. Some of them are gruesome. Some of them are goopy. Some of them are gross. It's horror manga, and that's the way it is. Though certainly you wouldn't be watching if you didn't know that. But yeah, so that's Dissolving Classroom, as you can tell. And there are 7 stories in it. They're all great. So Dissolving Classroom, Dissolving Beauty, Dissolving Apartment. Dissolving Apartment is my personal favorite. Then you have Shizumi in Love, which is a short one. Interview with the Devil. And then there are 2 ones that are not connected overall, which are called The Return and Children of the Earth. Both are really good. I also have Gyo, which is a 2-volume, and we're going to talk about these a little bit more in depth later. But Gyo, The Death Stench Creeps, is really good. It's a little bit longer, but this volume here is hardback. You can tell it has gorgeous color on the inside, and that's something about his work is that he does it distinctively in black and white, but the covers have color in them, and some of the works have been updated and adapted with the color panels in them, but not this one. I think it just has the covers in it that are colors. But it goes through all of Gyo, which is 19 chapters, as well as it has bonus stories. It has The Sad Tale of the Principal Post, which is a pretty short one, but it's really good. And then one of his most famous, I think the one that's been memed so many times, The Enigma of Amigara Fault, which I will talk about in a little bit. You like Goopy, Gruesome, and Ghost? That's good alliteration. Yeah, Goopy, Gruesome, and Ghost. Yeah, love it. Also, follow PP Poo Poo Man. That's really good alliteration, too. It tails off at the end, but, it's fine. So, it's the Dissolving Classroom. That's Gyo. I'm just showing off because these omnibuses that they have that have been put out by, let me see, who is the publisher here? Who is the publisher? Show yourself. I think, does he have his own company that puts it out? No, it certainly does. Okay, here we go. It's Viz Media puts them out. They are not expensive. You can find them at your local comic book shop. Now, if you don't have a local comic book shop or anything like that, then you can get them at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or Amazon if need be. They're pretty cheap. They are not expensive at all, and they're really good quality. Most of them are hardback. A couple of them are softback. It just depends on which collections you're getting. The next one, that is probably one of his, other than The Enigma of Amigara Fault, is his most popular work, and that is Uzumaki, Spiral into Horror, which has, just look at that. Look at all that detail, that spiral. You got Snail Dad right here pointing at it. You got Jack in the Box right here with my Prinky. So, because I'm a Leo and I can't help myself. Hey, you got it. Snail Daddy. Yeah, exactly. Snail Daddy. And then on the back here, it's brilliant color details. But Uzumaki is, gosh, how many chapters is it? It's like, boop boop. It's about 19 chapters as well. There's also, this collection right here, the Omnibus, includes the Lost chapter, which is Galaxies, which is kind of like a prequel to Uzumaki. And then it has the afterword. It doesn't have a lot of bonus stories in here because every chapter is a different story. And we're going to go into detail about Uzumaki, but not yet. I first learned about Junji Ito, I would say it was not a long time ago. It was about 2015. I was talking with a friend of mine, and I was talking about Silent Hill, H.P. Lovecraft, all these things that I really enjoyed. And he was like, hey, you like anime and manga? And I was like, I do. And he said, well, Wes, have you heard of Junji Ito? And I was like, no, I have not heard of Junji Ito. And he went on YouTube, and they have a lot of the motion comics on YouTube, which I think kind of takes away the effect of reading them, because, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, Junji Ito does really well with like cliffhangers on each page. Like when you turn the page, you know you're going to turn the page, you're going to see something you don't like, but like turning the page, the motion comics kind of take away from that. But so he showed a couple of those. He showed me Army of One, which is a really, really fucked up story, and then Hanging Balloons. And then from there, and then he showed me The Enigma of Amigara Fault, and I was like, okay, don't show me anything else. I'm going to go and I'm going to find whatever I can. And just immediately dove into Junji Ito. He is a very pleasant Japanese horror mangaka. He is a mangaka, if you don't know, is a manga artist. He is a very pleasant man. You can find countless interviews with him on YouTube. You can read countless interviews. I have some of these sourced. I cited some sources from interviews of different stories of him talking about growing up, and he's always got a smile on his face. He's always very, very pleasant, and doesn't seem like you would expect somebody that makes and creates stories and images much like this. He is like I said before, Japanese horror mangaka that has his most notable works being Uzumaki, Enigma of Amigara Fault, his first daily line, and was also his first collected story, which is Tomie. It's spelled Tomie. It looks like Tomi. It's Tomie, but you can say Tomi. It's fine. That is a series that chronicles an immortal girl who drives her mad-stricken lovers even madder. Uzumaki, which we talked about, which is the spirals, and Gyo, which is about fish that are controlled by a strain of sentient bacteria called the Death Stench. He's had multiple collections, which include the Junji Ito manga collection, Fragments of Horror, Suichi's Journal of Delights, and very, very quaint and cute, that's not very horror influenced, is Junji Ito's Cat Diary, Yon and Moo. Hamster Robert, thank you for the subscription. Thank you, guys. Subscribing with Twitch Prime. Remember, if you do have Twitch Prime, you can use a free subscription to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Every little bit helps. Yon and Moo is very, very adorable and cute, but it still has that eye of detail that is Junji Ito's staple. And we'll talk a little bit more of that. But let me dive a little bit more into his history. And also, Cat Diary is a self-parody about he and his wife that live with his two cats. It's very, very adorable. So, Junji Ito was born on the 31st of July in 1963 in Sakashita, which is now known as a part of the Nakata Sugawa Prefecture. There we go. I'm going to be mispronouncing, and I do apologize ahead of time. He began his experience in horror at a very young age. He had two older sisters that would read Kazuo Umetsu, or Kazuo Umez, who's considered the grandfather of horror manga. He's about 80 years old now, but he has a lot of great works. If you can find them, you can really see the influence that he had on Junji Ito. But also Shinichi Koga. That they had a lot of their stories in daily lines and magazines, and his sisters would read them and then share them with a young Junji or young Ito. He began reading them too. He grew up in the countryside in a very small city next to Nagano, and in the house where he lived, the bathroom. So his family lived on top upstairs, but the bathroom was underground, and you had to go to the end of the tunnel underground to get to the bathroom, which he said in an interview that frequently, as he was making his way to the bathroom or while he was using the bathroom, there would be visitors that would visit him, including Klein Iodine. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. Thank you so much. Continuing on, he would be visited by creepy crawly friends, including centipedes, millipedes, cockroaches, and spiders while using the restroom. So, at a very young age, he had an experience with horror, and it affected him a little bit. It stuck with him. So, he would reflect on these like insects and stuff later on in his life, especially in Gyo. You can see that a lot, and a little bit in Yan and Mu. So Ito first began writing and drawing manga as a hobby while he was working as a dental technician in 1984. He was about 19 years old. He was working a side job, and he had always been a fan of mangaka, and he'd always been a fan of horror stories, and like H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King was a big influence on his life growing up, because like Stephen King started getting popular beforehand. But it wasn't until around 1984 when he actually started like trying to draw manga himself. He had sketches and such, and he was and he had his whole life planned ahead of him, working in dentistry. He was going to dental school, and in 1987 he submitted a short story to Gekken Halloween, which won honorable mention at the Kazuo Umetsu prize competition. That the man himself, Kazuo Umez, was the judge, and that short story would turn later into Bitomie, his very first published work. So you can tell in his works afterwards, as he's publishing, he has an almost Stephen King-like quality of pumping out works in magazines, newspaper bylines, as well as working with different publishing companies to get his short stories in manga collections. His other influences, other than Kazuo Umetsu, was Hideshi Hino, Shinichi Koga, Yasutaka Tsui, and H.P. Lovecraft, like I stated before. The universe that Ito describes in his stories is very cruel and unforgiving and capricious. His characters are often characters that don't have a lasting effect on you character-wise, but it's the things that happen to them and the actions that push against them that really stick out. It seems that in his work that his characters seem to have no reason for why they're shoved into these tremendously terrible situations, like the Amagara Fault or Uzumaki. It just seems to be happening. It's very much... I've been reading Eugene Thacker's Philosophy of Horror, and he talks about cosmic pessimism. And Junji Ito's work definitely goes in line with that brand of thinking. That there's three forms of the world. There's the planet, the earth, and the world. Ours being Earth, the planet being uncaring, and then the world being beyond that. And his characters just feel like they're being tossed and turned and ripped apart by forces that are beyond their control, beyond their understanding. very much like H.P. Lovecraft's work. Some of the recurring themes that happen in his works include jealousy and envy that is evident in Tomie and Dissolving Beauty, which is part of the Dissolving Classroom collection, as well as body horror, as we'll see soon, and seemingly ordinary characters who begin to act out irrationally. The breakdown of society, deep sea organisms. He has a very lasting interest in things that live beneath the waves. And he always likes to have a contrast between beauty and death. The new Twisted Visions just came out. I'm going to have to pick that up. I'm planning on grabbing Fragments of Horror or at least Frankenstein, because I do want to read his take on Frankenstein. But I'm hoping to pick up any one of those. The events that are narrated are unpredictable and violent, and they typically arise from normal situations, everyday life. Like one, Glyceride, is just a story that stems out of the fact that a family lives beneath the restaurant that they run, and we'll see that in a little bit. If you weren't here before, I'll let you know, content warning. When we start talking about his works and talking about his art style, I am going to show some of his images, and some of them are pretty gruesome and graphic and gooey, or how PP Poo Poo Man. I love it. I'm gonna call you I'm gonna call you P Quad M or P Quad is goopy, gruesome, and gross. That good old alliteration. So I just want to get that out there. So look away. I do not fault you if you do not want to watch. So his first published work, Tomie, which is about a seemingly immortal woman who has succubus-like powers that are able to drive men to violence. Thank you! Y'all come get y'all juice. Thank you, Hamster Robert. Thank you for contributing $5 to the donation fund. That's so sweet of you. Appreciate you. But Tomie, that story was inspired by the death of one of his classmates, and he felt strange that a boy that he knew suddenly disappeared from the world, and he always expected him to show up again in school and after class, but he never did. And that really affected him deeply, that somebody like that could be taken away so suddenly. And that's how he came up with the idea of a girl that's supposed to have died, but then she just shows up every time that she seemingly dies as if nothing happened. Gyo, which is the Death Stench Creep, was influenced by his anti-war feelings that developed from hearing stories from his parents who survived World War II about their experiences. T-Man the Dude, thank you for donating $5.69. Let's do that. 69 cents. Thank you so much. It developed from his anti-war feelings and stories that were told by his parents when they survived World War II, when they were much younger. Also, his story, The Hanging Balloons, about different people whose balloon-like heads grow out of their own necks and make them drift away, developed from a dream that he had as a kid. So you see that kind of similarity that he had with Shirley Jackson as well as Stephen King, of that writing from what you know, and also from just taking things from his own life and constantly putting a twist on them. That's a very common theme, and when we talk about Stephen King later on down the line, if he ever gets voted for, you will go into more depth about that. So, let's go ahead and talk about Tomie. So, Tomie centers on a mysterious, beautiful woman named Tomie Kawakami, who acts like a succubus that possesses an undisclosed power. It's never disclosed within the story about that is able to drive men to do whatever she wants for them, that usually ends in acts of violence in depth. She seems throughout the story that she has regenerative abilities that seem to be connected to cannibalism, and she's able to heal any wounds, split her blood, or have or replicate herself with herself sprouting from her own body here. So there have been multiple adaptations of that story. It has been there have been 8 animated films that have been adapted from that story. 8. Which all kind of blend into different arcs of that. And there's only 2 volumes, but there's multiple chapters of it. Also, 2 episodes were adapted for the Junji Ito collection. We'll talk about that towards the end, because I do really want to talk about the new Uzumaki series and the Junji Ito collection, which apparently, I have not seen it, but apparently is a dumpster fire. So, So it's very much focused on the story Tomie. How she appears is this pale, gorgeous, black hair with black straight hair beauty that always seems unshaken by anything that's going on around her. Always manipulating men to do whatever her heart desires and whatever whims that like urging their desires as well. Within the films, that sexuality is a little bit more ambiguous. We're seeing that she has effect on women as well, and I do hear that is a little bit more effective in the film for the most part. There is going to be a web television series, an animated series, hopefully animated series. We don't know if it's animated yet, but it's being showrun by Alexandra Asia, that is going to be on Quibi. So I might have to wait until that comes out and get a free trial for Quibi, because I don't know any other reason why I get a Quibi subscription, but I do want to check that out. Tomie is very dark, very gruesome, makes you feel a little bit icky. And I will show off a little bit of art from that here soon. After that, he had a series of other collections. His next one, which was very, very popular, was Flesh-Colored Horror. It was a collection of short stories that dove more into body horror, that did psychological horror. Definitely be about that writer. He does... Yeah, in the way that Uzumaki made you want to forego doing laundry for a while. Yes, very much so. Broken Golem. Flesh-Colored Horror had a much more focus on body horror and misshapen and growths and stuff. It's very, very gross. He does a little bit more cerebral stuff with The Face Burglar, which comes next, as well as Suichi's Diary of Delights and Suichi's Diary of Curses, which Suichi is a character. I think the name is used again in Uzumaki as the male protagonist in that. Afterwards, there's Slug Girl, which is very gross. You can imagine that's gross. Blood Bubble Bushes, Hallucinations, House of the Marionettes, The Town Without Streets, which has a very Silent Hill vibe. The Bully, The Circus is Here, The Story of the Mysterious Tunnel, Lovesick Dead, and then finally in his short story collections that were all adapted and collected, Frankenstein, which is his take on the classic novel. Which I do need to read. I have not read yet, and I know it is at Sanctum, and I want them to hold on to it so I can pick that up. After all of those, next comes Uzumaki. Uzumaki is the story of a town in Japan that is beset and cursed by spirals. There are spirals everywhere. There are spirals in the clouds. There are spirals in the storms. There are spirals in the sea. The lighthouse of the town itself is a spiral. There's snail daddies that are spirals. There's a Jack-in-the-Box boy that are spirals. It is very, very, very effective. And there are a lot of really gruesome stories. Yeah, snail daddies, yes. One of the most gruesome photos or panels I've ever seen in comics, and I was hesitant. I've got it marked here. I was so hesitant to turn the page because I knew exactly what was coming. I knew that it was going to involve something I did not want to see, and it's like you're cringing and you know it's coming, and then you turn the page and you see it. We'll go over it soon. But each chapter within Uzumaki is taken from the perspective of, sometimes it's from Soichi, or let's see here, what is the town is named, oh god, turning pages, reading, is Kuruzocho. The main protagonist, though a lot of the stories are taken from different perspectives, it is mainly her. It's Kiri Goshima is the female protagonist, and then the male protagonist is Shuichi. Shuichi, not Suichi, Shuichi, who is your normal Japanese emo boy. But there are different I'll show you. There are different stories taken from different perspectives, like Jack in the Box Boy, where there's a kid that likes to surprise his classmates, and then he gets hit by a car, and then that turns into something. I'm not going to get too spoilery, because it's really great to read it yourself. Also, if you live nearby me, if you're a friend that lives nearby me, just ask and I'll let you borrow them, because I really want people to read these, or get your own copy. They're great. They're worth it. But Uzumaki has a story about a lighthouse, and there's a story about two star-crossed lovers. It's a very Romeo and Juliet story where their families hate each other and they can't be together. So one day they make a plan that they're going to get away, and they see an image, or they see two snakes entwined in a spiral with each other. So they decide that, guess what? We're going to be like those snakes. And so they too become entwined to keep their families from hating each other and keeping their love apart. There is a tale about Shuichi, his mother's, goes crazy, and she starts wanting to cut spirals off out of everywhere, all over her, and she starts realizing that spirals aren't just outside of her, but the spirals are inside of her too. So you can see where that's going to go. But that's Uzumaki. And it all culminates into one great story that really sets the note perfectly. The build-up is perfect and the release is perfect. He does a really good job with build-up. The tension just rises, and then it releases, and then you have some levity. It works really well. I do need to check out the live-action movie, because I have not seen a live-action movie. And I cannot imagine what that looks like. I've seen the Parasite live-action movie, and that was demented enough, so I cannot imagine what the Uzumaki live-action movie looks like. So Uzumaki does have an adaptation coming out on Adult Swim. I think it's in partnership with Funimation and Adult Swim. But let me go ahead and pull it up here. It's coming up in 2020, later this year. And okay, so, all right. So at the Crunchyroll Expo, they announced that a 4-episode anime television series is going to be announced. So it's going to be part of Toonami's programming block before it hits Japanese premiere, which is kind of weird to me that it's going to be premiering here instead of over in Japan first. But creative director Jason DeMarco has stated that the production is still in progress, and even though the coronavirus pandemic is happening, it hasn't postponed anything. It's still going to make its fourth quarter release date for that. The music, which I played at the beginning of the stream, Spindrift by Colin Stetson, who is he is a professional saxophonist and a multi-instrumentalist who's played with Bon Iver. He's played with Bad Bad Not Good, Tom Waits, Arcade Fire, a bunch of those. He is a professional saxophonist, and he's a master of circular breathing. So his music style, he did the soundtrack for Hereditary as well. His soundtrack, and also The Color Out of Space. His soundtracks really fit with those tense, despair-filled properties, and his music itself has a spiraling kind of ebb and flow to it because he uses circular breathing really well, so he's able to breathe while still playing. And also he does singing as well. He's able to sing while playing as well. He's really, really good. Circular spiral, yes. So it all connects. You can watch the trailer on YouTube. They announced it like I think last year at some point. I remember I was cleaning the house and I was watching like something on Adult Swim, and then I just heard that circular breathing. I was like, "Is that Colin Stetson?" And I looked and I saw there's that spiral cloud in it, and then you hear the Uzumaki, and I was like, "Ah, okay, great, dope, perfect." So definitely keep your eye out for that. Uzumaki was nominated for an Eisner Award. It did not win. I think it should have won, but it was nominated for an Eisner Award for Best U.S. Edition of Foreign Material. A lot of his material has been nominated for that as well. So definitely check out Uzumaki. After Uzumaki and Flesh-Colored Horror comes Kakashi. Kakashi had a live-action 2001 horror film, but Kakashi follows Kaoru Yoshikawa, who is looking for her missing brother, Tsuyoshi, that leads her to Kozukata, which is an isolated village in the central Japan that has a lot of dark secrets. There's a lot of, like, facial horror that goes on with that, a lot of swapping of faces, seeing things that aren't there, going into tunnels. You see a little bit of that influence of the crickets and the centipedes that used to visit Junji Ito at this time. So I want to keep in mind, as I continually describe these things that are happening and talking about them, this man is a very pleasant, normally high-functioning man. Like, he is, like, in his interviews, he's always smiling, he's happy to be interviewing, he's happy to be anywhere. He happily, like, man must have, like, two mouths. No. Definitely listen to Colin Stetson. Definitely. I'm going to play him at the end of the stream, but definitely listen to Colin Stetson. But Junji Ito is a very, very pleasant man. And he has all these dark things filled inside of him. But Kakashi came from a story that he read in the newspaper that like really affected him about a missing persons case that happened in central Japan, and he wrote about it. And Kakashi, if you do not know, is Japanese for scarecrow, so that kind of lends into to what it's talking about there a little bit. Moving on to Gyo. Gyo is a 2-volume mangaka that is or manga that focuses, the main characters are as a young couple that are griping about everything. They don't get along with each other. You have Tadashi and Kaori, who are on vacation in Okinawa, and they start getting attacked by these very fast-moving fish-like creatures that smell. They smell terrible. It smells like rotting dead flesh that lingers around. After which it develops and devolves into being a story that talks about World War II experiments that were worked upon by the main character, Kaori's grandfather in World War II, and his uncle experimenting on them. The artwork on it is pretty gruesome, including seeing dead fish, as well as a certain character, I'm not going to explain who, their body being manipulated by these mechanical spider legs that have a bacteria inside of it called the death stench that manipulate dead things to work for them. It's a anti-war story that talks about how experimenting and messing with nature for scientific means that lead to warfare is bad, and it's always bad, and it leads to terrible things. There's a lot of references to the atomic bombings of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. It is a really great story. It's shorter than Uzumaki. It's about half. You can see here, Uzumaki is a big boy. Gyo is about half the size. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. I hope somebody does cover that at some point, or they do an adaptation. It's always weird about adaptations of Junji Ito's works because they're in black and white, so it's weird to add color to his works, and it's weird to take away the turning of pages and the pacing of the story. It kind of makes it a little bit less gripping. But I think somebody could do Gyo right, especially if Uzumaki works out well. I think somebody could do Gyo just as well. Within Gyo, released alongside of it, was the story, The Enigma of the Amagara Fault, which is one of his most memeable and most viewed and read stories. I'm going to go ahead and switch over here, and we're going to look at one of the most popular panels from The Enigma of Amagara Fault. It was made for me. This is my hole. So the story... This is my hole, yes. The story of The Enigma of Amagara Fault is a very short story, but an earthquake occurs outside of Tokyo, north of Tokyo in Japan, and it causes rifts and faults to show, a fault line to show up. Scientists go to investigate, and they start realizing, as people are being drawn to this fault line, that there are holes, there are human-shaped holes within this fault line. And people start realizing that these holes are shaped exactly like their proportions. It takes the perspective of our two main characters that fall in love very quickly. It's my only problem with the story is that they do fall in, there is a little bit of romance. Oop, switch that. But you see there are two main characters here. Look over there. It's no good. That's what it's just gaping at me. My silhouette saying, come into me. That's what it's saying. One of the most shocking and disturbing panels, other than the one in Uzumaki, is the ending of The Secret Amagara Fault. And the enigma, the secret, is what is at the end of these holes that these people start sliding themselves into and just wiggling their way into. I will not spoil it, but it is disturbing. It is disgusting. It is very gross. Check it out, read it. Go pick up Gyo so you can read that one as well, or you can find it online as well. After Gyo comes out Fragments of Horror. Fragments of Horror is decidedly, and I'm going to bring it over here a little bit so you can see a little bit. But you can see here, there is a distinct, reference to the picture of the Scream, the portrait of the Scream. You have eyes on the beams. You have your character being twisted and screaming. You have flying harpy women. You have... it definitely tells you what you're in for here. Let me go ahead and open this back up. It was made for me. It's my hole. We can go ahead and go with this. This one is from Gyo. One of the characters loses their arms, and the mechanical spider legs here latch on, and the bacteria start growing into the arm and turning it into a live creature that attacks everything. Yes, yeah. You have a Shelby-shaped hole somewhere in Japan. So, with Fragments of Horror. The Fragments of Horror contains 8 separate short stories. Some of the most popular ones are Gentle Goodbye, which is the main character Riko. After her mother has died, she starts being plagued by nightmares of her father dying as well. She marries into a very rich family, and she starts seeing some of his older relatives as ghosts, calling them after images. It lends into, and this is one of his more cerebral stories, where it starts covering paranoia and jealousy about how the man that she marries starts being jealous of her being able to see his relatives, and she sees her own dead relatives in her dreams. It's really, really good. It's really, really dark. Another one is Futon, which is Sonaka and Tomio. Sonaka's husband, Tomio, refuses to leave his futon because he's scared of dark nature spirits, and he says that they're everywhere. So, his fear of leaving of these dark spirits stems from the fact that he claims that he had a one-night stand with a nature spirit, a demon of sorts, that led to him being tracked down by these spirits. So, he refuses to leave this futon. He sleeps on it. He lives on it. It's very disgusting. It's very gross. He almost grows into it. And the ending, the twist ending, is actually very, very awesome. And it makes you're like, okay, I see what you're doing. There's a little bit more stories about Tomio and Sonaka in that as well that come later. But Fragments of Horror is one of the ones that I do need to pick up. Because I've read the stories within it, but I don't have it myself, and I'm going to find it somewhere. After that, after the next big release that he had was Junji Ito's Cat Diary, Yon and Mu. So it's an autobiographical seinen manga that is a parody of his life with Junji Ito, and his wife, and their life with Yon and his cat Mu, which is a Norwegian forest cat who the couple Yon and Jae-kun, which is Junji Ito, adopt as a kitten. He talks a lot about how in his darkest times he had a companion there. Sometimes the companion wasn't always the best companion to have, but it's very, very heartwarming. It's very, very, very good. I highly recommend you pick it up. It's very cute. It's very adorable, and it has his classic style within it. Let's talk about his classic style here. So, as you can tell in these portraits here, he has a very plain black and white style where there's a lot of detail in places that there doesn't necessarily need to be too much detail. He has a lot of blank space. His explanation for having that blank space is because he wants to be able to have his characters have not a lot of detail in their face so that he can add beads of sweat or different details within that so that he can expand onto it. And that's he describes his art style as starting with a foundation and building upon that and upon that and building upon that until there's nothing left to build upon, and that's when the horror has set in, the terror has set in. Now we're going to move on. Like I said before, it's very graphic, very gross, very gruesome. This one is from Dissolving Classroom. One of the main characters here, he constantly apologizes for everything. It gets on his annoyances until he starts having different girls in these different stories, and he's one of the main characters of the through line. He and his terrible sister, who he says is possessed by the devil, he constantly apologizes for her. Constantly. She terrorizes people around town, and he gets on his hands and knees, and he's like, I'm so sorry that this happened. Well, apparently, him apologizing, he apparently consorted with the devil at one point, and it causes his classmates and people around him to have their brains rot and melt and dissolve from their mouths, eyes, ears, and nose, to which his sister says that she loves to eat the brains. They're the best part. So you can see that where a lot of these, and I don't have a before shot, but a lot of these characters here have very plain faces with just a little bit distinguishing features, but it gives him space to add all the muck and the grime to make the horror much more effective. Moving on next, this is from I believe this is from Futon. Very gross, very very goopy potato boy here. Yeah, that is when the bean kicks in. Yeah, that's when the bean kicks in. All right. So, this is one of the covers from one of the inner covers from Frankenstein. Here you can see his line work is very impressive. He's able to use just miscellaneous shapes and lines to form a greater picture, which is drawing, but he does it more so to effect here, where in the background you have the creature's eyes, the staples across the forehead and everything, but also forming, and you can tell, I've seen the panel that's taken from, it forms the cloudy sky behind. There is the titular Dr. Frankenstein, and this one is a little bit different from, typically his stories take place in Japan, and this one is his adaptation of the the Mary Shelley story Frankenstein, and it takes place in Europe. And so he changes up his artwork and his style just a little bit to fit that more European architecture, that European clothing style, and that European like style of like dress and how they wore their hair. It's evident in how he draws the character's hair, even down to their facial structure. It's very, very... I can't wait to dive into that one. Now, I am going to once again let you know, if you are so grossed out by such gross stuff, we're going to talk about Glyceride for a little bit. Glyceride is my least favorite of his stories because it grosses me out so much. It is about a family that lives beneath the restaurant that they run. And the grease from the restaurant seeps from the restaurant into their home below and affects the family so bad that they have terrible, terrible acne. There's a portion of the story where the main character wakes up and one of the family members is above her and he squeezes his zits onto her, and that's what we're about to see here soon. So if you are squeamish, please do not look. As you can tell, the main character, crater face is erupting, baby. Let it rain grease. I believe, if I remember correctly, it is the main character's girlfriend, and the main character is the girlfriend of the son of the family that owns it. But you can tell in detail right here all of the incredible squiggly line work, the use of shadowing. He uses space so well to tell a terrifying story. The little goopy bits, so you don't know if that's sweat or if that's goop. Yeah, don't like that at all. Don't like that at all. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I've read that story once and I was like, no, I'm done. I'm out of here. Forget it. No, thank you. I'm done. It's goo. Yeah, it's goo. It's goo. It's Glyceride. This was also from Glyceride. It's your fault my face is like this. I've been contaminated by your filthy fucking grease. That is the son and his father. He's yelling at him. This is before that big old goop picture where he is very insecure about his acne and he has a breakdown. The whole family argues with each other. And it's very sad. The story, it's gross, but it's also very sad. And that's a lot. That's what makes a lot of his stories work so well, is that not only are they like gruesome in their horror stories, but like they take like most horror from the East. It has a fable, it has a moral to it, and also horror from the West, but from the East more so. And it just makes you sad. The movie Dark Water, it comes to mind, or The Ring, even, Ringu, or Ju-on, The Grudge. It's these horror movies that are very effective, and they scare the pants off of you, and they make you feel gross and icky, but they also make you feel sad, and they make you feel bad for the main characters. He does a really good job of that. All right. This is the return of the Hanging Balloons. This is not the original Hanging Balloons, but Hanging Balloons is what I was talking about. This is some of his most impressive work yet. So the story is people drive themselves to hang themselves, and that eventually leads to their head growing into a giant balloon, and with the noose they're turning into a balloon and terrorizing the people of Japan. The amount of like similarities but differences to make each and every balloon head there stand out is impressive. Like, just look at that work. Like Glass's long hair, middle part, Glass's short hair. Like to a very trained, like very experienced artist, this is probably a very simple like exercise of just taking a normal face and then just doing a little bit of detail to make them different. But it's so effective, and it makes each and every one of them look unique. I do highly recommend Hanging Balloons, but it is very tense. It's very dark. let's move on. Aha! Yes! Surprise, got you. This is from Jack in the Box, Uzumaki. I'm not going to go too in-depth into it, but as you can tell, there's a surprise with a spring and a dead body there. This is one of the major chapters in Gyo has a great white shark terrorizing the two main characters in their vacation home and them trying to escape. It's a very tense chapter that doesn't stop. It plays out almost like Jaws, but even worse because this shark can go on land and inside your home. It's very effective. So this is a good place where I want to talk about another really good story of his that I don't think I have any of the artwork, the panels pulled up. But it is a story called Army of One. In short, long story short, Army of One is about these planes that drop notes all over town that eventually lead to people sewing themselves together, or somebody starts sewing these people together. It gets to the point where the military and the police step in. The main character's high school reunion is about to happen, or it's graduation or high school reunion. And there's all these terrible scenes of people just like sewing themselves together, all trying to make an army of one. And like these pamphlets that drop say, "Together we're stronger," through unity, bound together, nobody can take us down. We're stronger together. We have strength together, and that leads to the climax where the girlfriend of the main character and the main character are trying to get to the high school reunion. They act very suspicious because the guy doesn't want to go to his high school reunion, and the girlfriend's trying to convince him. And so the police that are guarding the high school reunion so that nobody can go in and sew these people up keep them out of the high school reunion. Well, next page, you turn the next page, you find out that every single student and faculty member and person that was in that high school reunion has been sewed together in one giant clump. And so just like that, narrowly misses that margin. I'll go ahead and post that on Twitter if I can find that image because it is very, very unsettling. This is a good place for me to take a break real quick. I will be right back. Go ahead and take a bio break. Go ahead and have a drink, smoke a cigarette, go use the restroom, drink your water, take your meds. I will be right back very soon. All right, we are back. We are back. Hope everybody got some water, took care of themselves, got a snack or something. We came back to our shark friend here. Okay, so I just talked about Army of One. We're going to move through here a couple more slides, and then we're going to talk about the Junji Ito collection. And then we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth, any questions that you guys might have about Junji Ito himself, anything like that we're going to go into, and then that should be about it. So, next. Here is from Tomie. You have the rib bone girl here. That this is a very well-known image from that, playing a harp made out of the rib bone of one of the characters, as well as this is Tomie herself, the incubus. As you can tell, this is a photo that was taken of her as she is seemingly growing another version of herself off of herself. Intricately. His the design work, the little bit of the flesh tearing and forming, the drool patterns, the perfect porcelain, the symmetrical nose. A big thing in Tomie is how symmetrical she is and how perfect she is. Her eyes are perfectly symmetrical. Her nose, her whole entire face, her presence is perfectly symmetrical. And then she has these moments of where, like, she's been injured or things start growing back, and then it just warps and it changes. And it is so fucking cool. It's so fucking rad. It's also so fucking gross. As you can tell here. I do love his work that he does with hair and eyes. They stand out amongst almost everything else to me. I'm always naturally, like, when reading his work, I'm always drawn to the eyes and the hair and how brilliantly he does it. So, this is what I was talking about when I said Snail Daddy. We hadn't had any Uzumaki pictures show up, but here is one of the big ones. The one I was talking about where I was dreading, because I knew it was coming. Not too much context, but this is Shuichi, and this is his mother, and that's his father. His father had become obsessed with spirals, much like a lot of the people in the town, which eventually led him to putting himself in a barrel in the form of a spiral. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to begin to think about how that's physically possible, but the fact that there's the tongue lolling out, the hands, the glasses that are just kind of sitting askew off of his face, the eyeballs, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, but it's also pretty great. Soichi's mother has a story later. She's the one I was talking about earlier, where she starts, it's because of this, it's where she starts becoming terribly, deathly afraid of spirals and wanting to see them, take them away, to the point that, like, Shuichi is like, she can't find out that there are spirals inside of her, like your eardrum. Your eardrum is a collection of spirals. Your intestines are spiral. Everything is spirals. That's one of the leading things that it starts, like, driving people insane, is that everybody's just like, oh, there's spirals everywhere. There's spirals everywhere. So that is, that's pretty great here. So, moving on. Probably one of the most well-known pictures from Uzumaki, except this is a little bit further into it. But there's a character in one of the stories that has a beauty mark that starts slowly turning into a spiral, and it starts taking over her head, and people are like, you have to go to the doctor, there's something wrong with you. She's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. It's just my beauty mark. It's just my birthmark. Until it starts slowly, and, like, the image that's really well known, I didn't grab that one because I wanted to see a little bit more depth of detail within the spirals itself, is her eye hanging out in the middle of the spiral as it's growing. It's pretty bad. Notice the detail there with the nostril flare, the eyes, the veins popping out of the eyes, the sweat bead right here. Every single little circle, dot, dash, line that just seem like chaos that form into something that is so unifying and so spiral. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. This guy is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's so crazy. I also, This is a Modest Mouse shirt, but it was the closest thing I had that had a spiral on it. I'm gonna try to find a T-shirt or something that has a spiral on it. A Junji Ito. There's a site that is like he gets payback from it. It's officially licensed Junji Ito stuff that has different panel grabs from his manga and other things like that. I want to grab some of that stuff. Get a nice spiral T-shirt. This is the next portrait here we have from Uzumaki. This is one of the that's one of them too. Uzumaki. This is one of my favorite chapters from Uzumaki. That features the lighthouse in the town. If you've played the computer game World of Horror, it's in early access right now. It's $15 on Steam or on GOG. It's for PC only if you get it from Steam, but you can also get it on Mac. It does not take a lot. It was developed by Esprit Games, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. The guy did all of the hand drew everything in MS Paint, and it takes references from H.P. Lovecraft and Junji Ito, World of Horror, but one of the lasting images that come from World of Horror is a lighthouse sticking out. This is a great, just to see the spirals of, like, the clouds or the storms or wind in there. The story involved is that at the same time every day, there's a brilliant, bright flash of light that comes from the lighthouse in town, and it drives people mad. So they start, like, trying to figure out what's going on with it, and what actually is happening with it. It's just, like, it's a really horrifying panel. I didn't want to grab that one, but I did want to grab this one because I love his brilliant use of, like, contrast here that he has. Like, it's like it seems like he's just shading it in, but you can tell if you get in detailed and in close that he's doing like little small rectangles alongside to give a little brick layout. The little, like, seed, like, diamond shapes there. The amount of detail in the spirals there. The line of men wandering to it, and one of the other cruxes of the story is that people go to investigate the lighthouse to see why it's doing it, and they don't come back. It is very, very cool. The last picture that I have in the slideshow is not so gruesome. It's actually pretty cute. It's from Jan and Moo, and it's something that every cat owner understands here. You have Moo, the Norwegian forest cat here, getting a little bit of chin scritches, a little bit of under the neck scritches. And if you've ever owned a cat, you know that look right there when they've been scritched too much. It's too much stimulus. They hate it now. They don't like it. And they just immediately claw into you and bite you. I wanted to show the contrast in his style here. McStabber Studios, thank you for the raid. Everyone, go follow McStabber Studios if you love board game content, if you love Vampire the Masquerade. They do DC, as in Washington, D.C. by night. They have vignettes, and they also have a long form. You can catch them here on Twitch. You can also catch them on YouTube. Go ahead and show them some love if you can. Thank you guys for the raid. I very much appreciate it, guys. I very much appreciate it. We're talking about Junji Ito tonight. Just going into it, going over some different panels. We're at the end of the panel showing here. But I just want to be able to contrast... to show his contrast and style of, like, oh, look, it's a cute cat. Who doesn't love the cat? And, you know, you see the little detail of the fur, the whiskers, the follicles from which the whiskers come out the nose, and then that almost like it is a 1978 Japanese samurai film or an anime, and you see that the cat feels betrayed. Either he stopped scritching or he scritched too much, and he goes on the attack. And you see his trademark horror on display within the next panel. The amount of detail in the fur, the eyes, like I said before, drawn immediately to the eyes. The detail in the patterning of the fur just by using a little bit more heavy line work. And he has the kanji here for the cat biting him, a mew or a hiss there. It's really, really dope. Tomie is bae. But yes, definitely check out Jan and Moo, Tomie, all of those good ones here. So, we've talked about Uzumaki. We've talked about Tomie. We've talked about Gyo. We have talked about Yon and Mu. We have talked about a myriad of others. So, let's talk about the Junji Ito collection. Widely known and widely panned as lacking in comparison to the source material. The Junji Ito collection is a horror anime anthology series that was adapted from Junji Ito's works, and it was animated by Studio Dean. It has several stories from Ito's collections, and it was accompanied by the release of 2 OVAs. It premiered on January 5th, 2018, and it was produced by Crunchyroll, and it was on the same day produced within 8 languages as well. It was first announced in 2017, and within a year, the rush production definitely shows in the animation and the pacing of each story. It is not as effective as the source material. It almost seems like it happens at a breakneck speed, and the voice acting itself is not that great. There are some standouts, there is here. Let me see. Clifford Chapin, and as well Eric Vale stands out. They are both very popular anime dubbers, but you could tell that the product itself was rushed, and you can tell that they had a more focus on they made all the black and white, normally black and white images colored, so it adjusted and it changed things. They also made a lot of changes in panels depth and the detail within it, and it seems if they almost would have gone a more rotoscope style, or a more kind of like Loving Vincent, then it probably would have been more effective. And that's what the new Uzumaki series seems like. It's going to be more rotoscope in style. They're also not rushing Uzumaki. They've taken almost 2 years of developing it, and they just announced it last year. It's been like 2 to 4 years of Uzumaki, but like this one was started, announced in 2017, and then released in 2018. It is widely panned, not very well received. It contains 12 episodes of the series, including 2 OVAs of Tomie Part 1 and Part 2, which includes Soichi's Convenient Curse and Hell Doll Funeral. Most of the episodes have two mini episodes within each episode, almost like a Twilight Zone kind of, or like later Twilight Zone style. The second episode has Fashion Model and The Long Dream. Fashion Model it's the very distinct, very sharp, angular. I wish I would have grabbed one of the panels, but it looks almost like a mannequin, unnatural. Then you have Boy at the Crossroads and Slug Girl, Shiver and Marionette Mansion, the ongoing tale of Oshikiri Collection and Cloth Teacher, Window Next Door, which is a really scary story that is actually one of the worst done within the collection, and A Gentle Goodbye, Used Record, and Town of No Roads being very well done, but not adapted. There are some stories that are effective, which is Tomie itself works, as well as Greased and Scarecrow, which is Kakashi. They also have Smashed, which is the title of you can get a omnibus from Dark Horse Comics and Viz Media. It's the Smashed, which is a short story collection that has Rumors, Supernatural Transfer Student, Painter, and Blood Bubble Bushes within it as well. You can watch a video with Super Eye Patch Wolf, and he goes a little bit more into detail. I'm not going to go into detail because it's not honestly worth watching. I mean, I would say watch it just to see a lot of Junji Ito's work adapted, but it should be a blueprint for how not to adapt manga into anime. There's a lot of success stories with manga being translated into anime. Dragon Ball Z being one, Full Metal Alchemist, One Piece. They all maintain the tone and the style, and the Junji Ito collection does not. So that being said, some things that you can catch Junji Ito in recently. He was cited to being a collaborator with Guillermo del Toro and everyone's favorite madman Hideo Kojima on the Silent Hills project. He helped lend some of his insight on Playable Teaser, or PT, but when that project was canceled by Konami in the world famous Kojima Konami fallout, then it seemed that his collaboration with those folks would end, though there are rumors that Silent Hill might be picked up and purchased from Konami by Sony. Fingers crossed for that, because I would love for Sony to give Silent Hill and hopefully Metal Gear Solid, maybe Castlevania, to some other people and take them away from Konami, who all they want to do is just make money off of pachinko machines, or plinko, not pachinko, or could be both. Arcade machines, gambling arcade machines, and also mobile games that just take your money, freemium games. But his collaboration did not end with Hideo Kojima, because his likeness was used as one of the side characters within Death Stranding that you do a series of deliveries for. And also Guillermo del Toro lends his likeness as well. So do check out Death Stranding if you want to see bespectacled Caesar-style haircut from George Clooney in the 90s, pleasant-looking Junji Ito in that game. So, as far as a deep dive in history goes, that is all I have for Junji Ito. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about? Plinko is The Price is Right. Thank you, Mr. Blunderfoot. Thank you also, McStabber Studios, guys. Make sure to go ahead and give them a follow. Thank you so much for the raid once again. Junji Ito is very much a influential icon that has had his works touch a lot of different creators, myself included. There's a couple of short stories that I have in draft form that I haven't touched a while, that are heavily influenced with his pacing and his storyboarding style. You can see his influences on many, many different artists today in anime, and also in horror today. His fingers are long-reaching and grabbing. Go ahead and, if you can, check out your local comic book store. Check out your local your local, maybe Barnes and Noble or Books A Million, or their websites, because stay safe, stay at home, stay isolated, everything like that. Or check Amazon if that's your only option, and pick up these great, great volumes: Dissolving Classroom, Gyo, and Uzumaki. I know I'm probably going to order a couple more tomorrow, probably. But you can find Tomie, you can find Flesh Colored Horror, you can find Nagai Yume, which I did not cover too much, Kakashi, Uzumaki, Gyo, Junji Ito's Cat Diary, Yan and Mu, Fragments of Horror. There is also let me go back in the stream to see which one was, because Broken and Golem announced Twisted Visions just came out. You also has his adaptation of Frankenstein that you can grab. Be sure to check out Uzumaki, which is coming out later this year, Q4, on Adult Swim, with music by Colin Stetson. It's going to be a 4-part episode, so I'm going to see, because it's going to be interesting, because if they're going to cut, how much they're going to cut out from Uzumaki, and how much they're going to keep in. There's a story about pregnant women and mosquitoes in there. There is a lot of crazy stuff in Uzumaki. So, end of the stream. I want to go ahead and say thank you. I've got a couple of source shout-outs, because I got my information from a couple of different places, including there is grape.e.japan, which was an interview with the Master of Horror, Junji Ito, which I got a lot of my information from. Go ahead and check that out. As well as, let's see here, go ahead and bring it up, artifice.com, which was the horrifying appeal of Junji Ito. And then also Junji Ito himself, his works. I grabbed his panels from and used it. Go give Colin Stetson a listen. His music's going to be used in Uzumaki. He did the soundtrack to Hereditary, did the soundtrack to The Color Out of Space. He's worked alongside Bon Iver. He's worked alongside Tom Waits, Arcade Fire, Bad Bad Not Good, a myriad of other artists. Go ahead and check him out. And you can go ahead and check me out on Twitter. That's at BrotherXWes, as well as on Instagram at BrotherXWes. And you can check me out as well at Comfort Carrion on both Twitter and Instagram. I'm more active on Twitter than anything else. I don't have a Discord yet. I'm going to wait until we hit a milestone goal here. We're at 58 followers. I'm hoping that we can get to 100 before the summer officially begins. If so, that would be so very dope. Remember, you can always use your Twitch Prime subscriptions to subscribe if you like what you're seeing. You can subscribe as well. Mr. Plunderfoot, thank you for the follow. Plunderloot, not Plunderfoot. I am so sorry. Mr. Plunderloot, thank you for the follow. Thank you so very much. You can go ahead and follow as well. Tell your friends if there's something that they might be interested in. Also, keep your eyes peeled for the Twitter, because I will be putting a poll. You, the people, can decide what the next episode of Dark Depths is. I alternate every Wednesday with Dark Depths and then working on some short story writing. So this upcoming Wednesday will be short story writing. But the 3 polls that are going to be Dark Depths are going to be John Carpenter. It's going to be his life, his work, his films, and his music. As well, the second choice is Shirley Jackson. Her published works, their adaptations, her life, her experiences. She is one of the most influential horror writers out there, and there would not be as many horror writers like Peter Straub or Clive Barker or Stephen King if it was not for Shirley Jackson. And the third option is Silent Hill. So I'm going to put a poll on the Twitter. Make sure you go vote. You can decide as well. I want to shout out to Mr. Plunderloot, who just followed. McStabber Studios, who rated. Thank you so much. Go ahead and give them a follow. Go ahead and give them a view. Shout out to Klein Iodine, Hamster Robber, Heathen Hymns, Essie Blanco 72, and Turtleman 357 for subbing. They have joined the inner circle. Thank you. Thank you so much. 5 subscribers. I'm speechless. I make an affiliate and having subscribers, it helps me out so much. Let you know, as you can tell the bar down below, every donation is going to getting a new PC rig for me to stream. It's going to be a dedicated streaming rig that will help me up the quality of the stream. That means I'm going to have more control over overlays. I'm going to be able to stream higher quality video games, which I really, really want to stream Alien Isolation. I really, really, really want to stream Outlast 2. I want to do a bunch of horror games because I feel like that'd be really fun. I want to also, just have a vessel of productivity to where I can update and eventually move stuff over to YouTube so that my video editing and everything can go. So please, please, please. Hellblade, yes. So I streamed Hellblade a long time ago when I was streaming under the moniker the Shred Pirate Roberts, and I want to play it again because they have the second one that was announced. I want to go through that. I also have way nicer headphones than I did before, so I want to play it because it uses binaural audio in it, and I would also love to play it on PC. Like Resident Evil, let's play Resident Evil, let's play Final Fantasy, let's and I know the majority of my focus is horror, but I also want to play other games that have very heavy story influences, and I want you guys to be able to influence what I play as well. So the more people that follow means the more votes out there, makes it a little bit more competitive, the more greater discussions that we can have. Be sure to follow me on those socials, Comfort Carrion, at Comfort Carrion, and also at BrotherXWes. I talk to everybody. Hell, I might even follow back. I'll probably follow back. I tend to do that anyways. But I love discussing a myriad of things, ranging from horror to writing to Star Wars to politics, as much as I hate it, to putting peanut butter on eggs. Go ahead and give a follow to @Gehenna Gaming. Great guys that really inspired me to do this, and they've been a very big boon to me professionally. You can check out their YouTube. It's for youtube.com/Gehenna Gaming. Check them out on Twitch. They have a Discord as well. Check them out on Patreon. Go give them a shout out. Go check out their content from Virtual Horror Con. I ran Alien RPG. I have an interview with Thomas Herenstrom, who is the creative director and the CEO and co-founder of Free League Publishing. So that's on their YouTube now. You can check that out. Also, one more shout out. They just came in the mail, but Alien is one of my favorite franchises of all time. I love Alien and Aliens. I love Prometheus. I love Covenant. Alien 3, the assembly cut a little bit more. I don't like Alien Resurrection. But I ordered on Alien Day, and you can get some yourself, some stickers. And she has stickers, pins, bandanas, magnets, all sorts of like original artwork prints. It's Kelsey over at Little Press on the Prairie. Little Press on the Prairie. There is the @ for her socials, as well as her Etsy shop right there. If you check out the Etsy shop, you can go ahead and do some orders. Here is one of Ash from Alien 1. You have my sympathies. One of my favorite quotes. I can't tell you your odds, but you have my sympathies, Ash. You have Vasquez. You're just too bad. Is Vasquez, one of the characters from Aliens. Here is, I can't remember, it's Postlethwaite. Pete Postlewaite's character, which his last name is Postlethwaite as well. I ain't much for begging, one of his lines from Alien 3. Then you have Ron Perlman's character from Alien Resurrection, shooting the facehugger. I am not the man with whom to fuck. One of the best lines from Alien Resurrection, written by Joss Whedon, as well as there is her logo. There is a sticker that she has of the last survivor of the Nostromo, her gorgeous, gorgeous dog, Ripley. Go ahead and give her a follow. Go ahead and check out her stuff. They just came in. I wanted to shout out an artist because I think it's important to shout out artists. And check out Seditious Designs. Check out all of them. Check out all these people. We're in self-isolation. People are essential workers. Now is the time to take in content that you want to support. There are a lot of people hurting. There's a lot of people that are out of work. Me, not so much, but I do appreciate all the support that you guys give. It means so much to me. It means so much that people actually come and watch and want to participate and want to have a dialogue and want to talk about this stuff. There are times when I've wanted to give up, and this is something that I truly, truly believe in, and I'm glad that you guys believe in it too. You can also, let's see if this works here. You can also find our merch. There you go, at that link right there, so you can get yourself a nice hat like this, or you can get yourself a t-shirt like there's one over there, or a jacket, or a sticker, or a mug, or anything like that that has Carrion Comfort Studios, Carrion Comfort Farms, or it has my face on it. I am that vain that I put my own face on my own merch. You can go ahead and check that, and half the profits that you get from purchasing merch goes directly to me, and the other half goes directly to the production of the merch. It is a great way to support me. It is a great way to support. Go ahead and check out Support Indie Wrestling. Go and check out Pro Wrestling Tees and help out your favorite wrestlers. Support your indie directors, your indie writers. Buy their shit. Invest in that Patreon. Check out their podcasts. Consume their content, engage with them, talk with them, because I promise you, sometimes it seems like they don't want to talk back, but they do, because engagement's important and people want to reach out. And there's nothing more important now in these scary, turbulent times than coming together, than working together, and being together as a human species in this uncertain time. So, before I continue rambling on and wasting the rest of your evening, it's 9:30. It's about time for us to end, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna hit that post roll, and you guys can find me on the internet. You guys can find me here every Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can find me every other Saturday at Gehenna Gaming for Cult Divinity Lost. Good Intentions. You can find me all over the place. Love you guys so very much, and remember, comfort comes soon. Bye now.